photo, but we'll start anyway. So Britney is a Libra rising, and that makes her chart ruler Venus. I hope everyone can hear us okay. I'm using headphones today because I had some sound issues the last day. So her Venus is here in the 4th house. So her Venus is in Capricorn. Jasmina, with Venus in the 4th house, that would make her incredibly like a real homebody, wouldn't it?
She certainly does enjoy a home and feeling at home, like, you know, like having her nest and place to go with all her travels. I think she really enjoys coming back to a place she calls home, whatever that is. It doesn't have to be her own home, but somewhere that she feels, you know, that she can feel secure. That's the whole point of feeling secure, right?
Venus in Capricorn in the house of home and family. She takes her home and family very serious. And with Saturn ruling this 4th house and ruling her Venus, her home and family have been a burden on her from a very young age, because this shows her early life, the bottom of the chart. And remember, Britney started working when she was very young. I didn't do a lot of research on that, but she was definitely, I reckon, 8, 9, 10 when she joined Mickey Mouse Club and was earning money. She was a breadwinner for the family.
Yeah, and also the ruler of her 4th house is Saturn in the 1st, so it's very important for who she is, how she, you know, home is really important, and the way she was grown up as well. Yeah, absolutely.
And
yeah, she started very, very young. That's true.
And her Venus is in a big trine. Not everyone can see it, but her Venus is in a big trine with Mars and with Chiron, which is probably the most challenging aspect, I would think, in her chart. Even though they say that trines are benefic, not always the case when your Mars is in the 12th house. But if we look at the degree of her rising signs, she's actually 2 degrees Libra.
Yes.
And 2 degrees is a Taurus degree. And I think, and her descendant is also at 2 degrees. Her IC, excuse me, and her MC. I think like when you've a Taurus degree on your angles, it can make you an incredibly strong person. You know, it can also be a sign of extreme wealth, a Taurus degree. And Britney, of course, is extremely wealthy. And her sun, okay, in Sagittarius, is at 10 degrees, a Capricorn degree.
Yeah, she has actually strong Capricorn.
You know? And her sun is in Sagittarius. And like, if we just look here at this Sag stellium she has got going on, like she's got Lilith conjunct her sun. And she was a huge sex symbol, you know, especially when she was younger. She's got Mercury conjunct the sun. Now, Mercury conjunct the sun, like sometimes I think it gives a person like their vision like can be a bit like, you know, when your Mercury is too close to the sun, Jasmina, it's like you have tunnel vision. I read that before. Have you ever heard about that?
No, but I know that, you know, it's very important to be able to express and communicate herself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So not being to do that in her own name for so long, it's a problem actually, right?
Yeah, a big problem.
Especially in Sagittarius, she needs that sense of freedom. She needs that sense of, you know, independence.
And we've
in her
a 5
communication.
degree orb, Jasmina.
Sorry?
A 5 degree orb between her Mercury and her sun.
Yeah, so something either happened when she was 5, or it's related to her kids' 5th house.
And making her very creative, you know, her moon is in the 5th house. Yeah. This is an important player in her chart for sure. So with this, like her sun is sextiling her moon in Aquarius. This is a woman who, like, freedom is a top priority for her. She's got her moon in Aquarius, the most freedom-loving sign, and Sagittarius that loves to explore and roam and have adventures.
I think that. Yeah, sorry. I just think that moon in Aquarius actually helped her to detach from all these issues that she was having. I think it helped her a lot to be able to detach from all the problems that she had with not being able to express herself or be free to do what, to be herself, right?
Yeah, exactly. And she's got this Sun Mercury conjunction, 10-degree orb, again, 10th house thing, 10th house things, and, you know, being incredibly successful. And Uranus, you know, she was so original and she was so different from all of her contemporaries at the time. And her voice, Uranus is in her 3rd house, and her voice was very different, you know, her sound, the way she sang. So I think it's amazing to see this here, Uranus. And remember I said to you about there was an obsession in the media about her virginity. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And I, at
Yes.
the time, you know, I was, how old was I at the time? Don't want to say, but like wondering what's that about. And if you look really closer, you can see there's an asteroid that Matt taught us about, Vesta.
Vesta.
In the 3rd
Just about
house,
home.
and we know the 3rd house is a real gossipy house, okay?
Yeah, Juno is there about relationships as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's got Vesta, and Vesta is all about, for people who aren't familiar with it, I think it's all about virginity and purity and, you know, that goddess. Am I right, Matt? Matt can send a thumbs up if I'm right. And
yeah, just being Libra rising, you know, the tendency to you know, wanting to have this beautiful harmonized relationships, beauty. It's all about beauty and expressing, you know, and showing the best of you, you know, that also could, you know, make people, you know, see her in that Venusian way, right? As a goddess of appeal.
yes, Matt, I got a thumbs up from Matt. Okay, life is made. So yeah, I think that Vesta conjunction, Matt, with Uranus and Mercury is the reason why people were so obsessed and talked about her her virginity so much. And when you think back, you know, in hindsight, it was so inappropriate. She was also interviewed a lot. They used to talk about her breasts. And this was a girl that's, you know, she started her career as a child, and then when she became famous, she was 16. And of course she was growing, but she would always get questions in interviews about her virginity and about her breasts, even from women, you know. They're famous.
I was just thinking,
you can look up on YouTube, and it's horrifying when you look back.
I'm just thinking her midheaven is in Cancer, and that's, you know, that's all about breasts. and you know, in a public eye.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just
and
it
look,
just occurred to me.
Jasmina, there's another asteroid here near her ascendant, Pallas Athena. And people that think Britney isn't a feminist, I'm sorry, she's a feminist. Look at this.
She is
3 degrees with her ascendant. And there's like energy there. And I think that Pallas Athena conjunct her ascendant, she's a lot more intelligent than people give her credit for. You know?
Oh, absolutely.
She is
absolutely
feminist, and she's
absolutely. And look at all, if you look at all the angers, they're in cardinal signs. So she's there to, you know, to go, to do, to be, you know, to do things and be first and just go getter, a go getter girl.
She is so clever. I know people can't see everything because of the chart. She's got vertex, which is a fated point, you know, in her 7th house. I think this is really interesting because the 7th house isn't just about marriage and relationships. It can also be about lawyers and legal disputes. And she's got the vertex here, which shows fated events happening to do with, you know, her relationships and marriage, but also to do with legal disputes. And it's in Aries. So things can happen quickly. And where is the ruler of her 7th house? It's over in the place you don't want the ruler of your 7th house to be, the 12th house. And this Mars in the 12th house, we could do a whole live just on Mars in the 12th house because it's a really challenging placement. I always say, whenever I see anybody with even, you know, whatever planet you have in the 12th house, if you've got a planet in the 12th house, it's challenging. Full stop.
It's challenging.
And
it's hard.
You need to have like a really good self-care routine around that planet. And I do feel that Mars is a particularly awful planet to have in the 12th house. Because remember, the 12th house is a watery house. We can drown in it. And Mars is a malefic, fiery planet. And a fiery planet in the 12th house doesn't do well.
Yeah, and it's ruling her seventh house of
Ruling her
relationships, right? So
so when I
that's also hidden enemies. There can also be hidden enemies because it's ruling her.
feels being
Yeah.
done in secret behind her back by men, men in power
Yeah.
in life, her father mainly, and also maybe males in her management team. And I would say what I thought was interesting, so the ruler of Britney's seventh house is Mars. And if we look at the aspect of Mars, because I was doing this in my little homework before we started, her
It
Mars
has a
square
go ahead.
Neptune.
Square
So
Neptune, yeah, I was going to say.
men have disappointed her. Romantic partners have disappointed her. And when I was looking at this Mars square Neptune, the first man that came into my head was Justin Timberlake. Okay, and a long time ago, but hear me out. The song, okay, the song, I'm going to go on a rant about Justin Timberlake. The song Cry Me a River. Neptune, water, Mars. Okay, now Mars square Neptune.
It's a hard aspect.
He capitalized on their breakup and wrote a song, you know, an aggressive song alleging that Britney cheated on him. Oh, and he called the song Cry Me. Hello, the 12th house is all about crying. A river, Neptune in the third house. My mind was blown. I saw that this evening. I had to share.
Yeah, no, that's a hard, like Mars and Neptune.
I don't know if it's obvious. I'm not a fan.
Mars and Neptune don't like each other very much, so that's all the aspects between those two planets are very, very hard. Especially this, it's a tight square. It's like 0 degrees. It's not, you know, it's blocking.
And do you know,
men ruling her creativity world as well.
You know what else I thought with her Mars square Neptune? Britney is a person that should never take drugs. Okay, recreational drugs.
Yeah.
And she should be very careful about pharmaceutical drugs because she's got Mars square Neptune, so she's highly sensitive. And if she ever, you know, maybe around the time of her Saturn return, let's say she might have, like a lot of celebrities, dabbled in drugs or alcohol. This could have drug-induced psychosis, okay? That's one of my theories, you know?
I'm just looking at my notes, and I also have a Mars square Neptune as in my notes as a very like a stinker aspect. It makes you feel you're unreliable. So and especially with Virgo Mars, you know, that wants to be of service, that wants to be reliable. With square Neptune, she might feel she couldn't express that you know. And then also Neptune is viruses, you know, those viral diseases as well, unseen, that can, you know,
and Mars
invisible illnesses.
I think as well, you know, with Neptune is in her third house, I think it is, or is it in her fourth house? It's very close to her IC, so we'll count it as both houses. I feel like the gossip, the tabloid gossip about her failed relationships would not have helped her mental health. I also feel that every time a relationship didn't work and she was disappointed by a man, it triggered this Mars square Neptune, and it triggered her Mars in the 12th house.
Neptune is also a modern ruler of her sixth house of health.
Yeah.
So it's triggering. See, yeah. Like a modern ruler as well. So mental illness, unfortunately. Yeah. Invisible diseases.
Yeah, so you can't help but be filled with compassion for her. And Georgiana says, but she did have problems with drugs, right? I don't know if she's ever spoken about it, Georgiana, but I'm sure, like most celebrities, she would have been exposed to drugs, surely, at some point in her career. And when we talk about drugs, we can even talk about alcohol. I would say that any kind of drugs would not suit Britney, and even drugs that they would give you in psychiatric care, I don't think they would have suited her, because her Mars is in Virgo, highly sensitive constitution, in the 12th house, square in Neptune, very sensitive to medication, and the fact that medication was forcibly given to her, you know, she's spoken about that.
Mars as well, hospitals, it was more about alcohol,
Yeah.
Matt saying, okay, you can read. What is Matt saying?
She could have definitely suffered from addictions with Mars in the 12th house. Energy drinks, that's a very good point. Or pharmaceutical drugs, yeah, exactly. And if we step back a little bit from this Mars square Neptune, even though I think it's a really harsh aspect she has. She's going to have her whole life, you know. This is the thing about your natal chart. It's with you forever, so you have to learn to manage it. She's also got Mars, the moon. I'm hopping away from Mars now for a minute. Her moon is sextiling Lilith, and I feel like she was able to use, her sex appeal as a woman, in her career. Fifth house was all about creativity and her song.
Yeah.
It definitely helped with
Mars,
that sextile.
Mars is also trining her Venus. That's also sex appeal for men, right?
Definitely.
It's a very close trine. Yeah, that's what makes her attractive too.
Venus trine Mars, trine Chiron. Yeah. But her Venus she's got very harsh aspects with her Venus. So her Venus squares, I'm going to step back a bit. Her Venus, I'm so glad we could share the chart because it just enhances the life so much. Venus squares Jupiter, Venus squares Saturn, Venus squares Pluto. Okay. Like, that's tough. This is Venus. This is the planet of love. And it's in her fourth house, which rules motherhood as well. And she's got like a square from Jupiter. So Venus square Jupiter, that could definitely enhance your, make you very hardworking and definitely help you with money. But the square from Saturn, control issues from her dad and from Saturnian figures.
Restrictions, money restrictions. They couldn't allow her to have her own money. That's a typical, example of
Pluto squaring her Venus. Like obsessive control, like dark, malefic control. That's, and I feel like, I looked at an aspect, I feel like her mother, because her moon in Aquarius is trining Saturn, and the moon can show the mother, and this trine she has with Saturn, I feel like her mom was complicit in this this control and this abuse of power. I do feel, mom and dad, even though I don't know, are they together anymore, but this trine between moon in Aquarius is trining the Saturn in Libra, 5-degree orb. She was performing from a young age as a child. I think they were complicit in, some of Britney's downfall, and even the fact she lost her access to her children. Moon trine Saturn, 5-degree orb. Yeah, there was points when I was doing her chart where I felt so sad for her when I could see some of the aspects.
Yeah, her Saturn is in conjunct Chiron, exactly. So that's about father and the wound that she has from him. It's exact. Conjunctions are not nice.
No.
So
well, with certain, for sure. Like Saturn is a tricky one. And I just wrote down here, Vesta, Lilith, 6-degree orb. Let me look again. Yeah, so Vesta and Lilith, 6-degree orb. This fascinated me because Lilith, Lilith is very close to her sun. So it's a potent point in her chart. And this conjunction, a 6-degree orb between Vesta and Lilith, I felt like...
Does she have any siblings? I didn't go look at that.
She has siblings, yeah, and she's had issues with siblings.
That's what I want to say. I was going to say with this Lilith and everything, I don't think
she's had issues with siblings, with her sister, as far as I know. But with this Vesta conjunct Lilith and the 6-degree orb, I feel that the gossip about her sexuality and her virginity and her relationships affected, the 6-degree orb affected her health and her mental health. I think she might have put on a brave face, but I do think it affected her. And her moon in Aquarius, I know everyone can't see Chiron, but Britney has Chiron in Taurus. And if we just look at Chiron in Taurus by itself. So Chiron is our wound that we're born with, our wounding. Hers is in the 8th house. Okay, now her 8th house is stuff we inherit. And her Venus, it's Taurus, remember? So the ruler of Taurus is Venus. Her Venus is in the 4th house. I feel like she inherited some of her wounds from her family of origin. And I do feel that her childhood wasn't easy with, Chiron in the 8th house and the ruler being down here in the 4th house. I feel there could have been a lot of chaotic crisis energy, and Chiron in Taurus is slow to heal. What about Venus conjunct South Node? Yeah, very karmic and challenging to have any planet conjunct your South Node, because she can go through periods of feeling stuck. Yeah, there's so much in her chart to discuss. But Chiron in Taurus, Jasmina, I feel that Taurus moves so slowly. And when you've Chiron in Taurus, the healing and the journey to healing is slower
I
than
have
the
it.
other zodiac.
So to be honest, I have Chiron in Taurus in the eighth house, same as she does.
Okay, and how
It's like
do you experience the healing being slow, the journey to healing being slow?
I always felt like, I think, not having control of your material things in life.
Wow.
And I think that's exactly how I experienced in my life, and that's what I feel with her. So the wound is like not having, like, you work so hard, you're entitled to all this, but then it just slips away. You don't have a control, somebody else is controlling it. And that's the wound, not having control of the material security that you need. That's how I feel that this is. And it's with her, it's directly connected with Saturn, with her dad controlling that, right?
Just had another download about the Mars square Neptune. People are going to laugh. Do you remember her famous video for the song Every Time? It was her song she wrote in response to Justin Timberlake's Cry Me a River. So the famous line is, every time I try to fly, I fall. Without my wings, I feel so small. At the very end of the video, she drowns herself in a bath. She attempts suicide. Mars square Neptune.
That's really bizarre video. Like when you think of it, yes.
Out.
Yeah,
wow.
when you think how that's really something. I just felt she was crying, like through all her songs and stuff. She was crying for help, like, like I want to break free. I felt that,
lucky.
Anyway,
that song, she's so lucky, she's a star, but she cries in her lonely heart. Yeah, Mars square Neptune. This girl has been through a lot of suffering. Even at the height of her fame and success, there was a lot going on under the surface. And I think it's interesting, it should be said as well, that Britney had children before her Saturn return. She was young. She was 24, I think, when she had her first child. And you can have children at any point in your life.
Yeah,
but
that's also Saturn,
next to her fourth house.
That's what I'm saying. And
activated when she became a mom.
Saturn in the first house is we see it in the people who are born old and they get younger as they age, because they have so much responsibilities when they're young.
Yeah, so
and with her, it's connected with the fourth house. So I don't know how much she really enjoyed her youth and fame when she was young. I think she wanted to be a kid, just sing and express herself artistically. I don't think she really, it was kind of put on her, right?
Yeah. Will we chat, Jasmina, about some of the aspects on the day she shaved her head?
Yes, let's go that. Let's see. Yeah.
So Pluto was on her Neptune. Okay, so she was in a lot of inner turmoil. Chiron was on her moon, I think. Did I say? I think it was the moon. I've written down sun, but I think it was the moon that Chiron was on that day. And astrology, it was it 2007? I actually have the chart here, but I'm afraid if I go out of the live, I'll lose it. But there was an asteroid that we're not that familiar with called Sedna, conjunct her natal Chiron on the day she shaved her head. And I think this is significant because Chiron is, well, for me anyway, I'm a very Chironic person. So I take Chiron very seriously in every birth chart. And that asteroid, Sedna, we did a bit of research, a bit of digging. And our good friend, Christina, I don't know if she's watching tonight, Christina, who had a baby recently, found out that Sedna had something to do with parental abandonment, which is so interesting that was conjunct her natal Chiron in the 8th house on the day she shaved her head. So yeah, when Chiron is on your moon, like, I'm going to say that Chiron on the sun is a lot easier than Chiron on your moon. Why? Because the moon is your emotions, your psychological,
your security. Yeah, and how you feel secure, and if it's hitting your security, then you feel vulnerable and more exposed to,
Yeah.
you know, to hurt,
I can't
right?
remember the exact details of her personal life, whether her relationship had broken down at this time. I'm pretty sure it had, her romantic relationship. And, you know, then she was a mother as well, you know, so there was stuff going on there with motherhood as well. So it definitely wasn't easy. So shortly after the shaving the head incident, she did enter into psychiatric care, and it was then a few months later, February 2008, she was still in psychiatric care. Her dad applied for conservatorship, temporary, over her estate. And on the day he did that, Mars in Gemini was squaring her natal Mars in Virgo, and was opposing her Neptune in the third house. So, or the IC, her Neptune is also on the IC. So Mars and Neptune were very much involved. They keep
all the time.
And again, I know Saturn is a big heavy hitter. I'm not dismissing Saturn, but Mars and Neptune have been the two players that were hand in hand, you know, in Britney's, you know, turmoil. And
yeah, it's because
Pluto was on IC at the time. So Pluto was like, you know, so close to her IC. Yeah. And on the day her dad applied, it was really significant that there was a new moon on that day, you know, because this would have, I feel that, you know, when you start things,
a new cycle.
we all know, you know, it's a new cycle, and this was going to last for a very long time. This cemented it, and it lasted for a lot longer than anyone anticipated.
What I see positively in her chart, she has that ability to transform and be, you know, to use the traumas and crises and to transform into a new, better person, and just like rise from the ashes like phoenix. You can see there's a T square with apex on Pluto from the nodes.
Yes.
So if you look at the nodes, so it's karmically, it's something karmically that she is able to. I'm just feeling that we didn't see the best of her yet. No, that's my.
You know, somebody pointed out on TikTok, because I love going on TikTok and watching the other astrologers, that Britney Spears' chart has a lot of similarities with Marilyn Monroe. You know, Marilyn Monroe, you know, she tragically died very young, you know, in, you could say, similar circumstances to Britney's circumstances. So, you know, Britney is very resilient. She's still with us, and she's been through a lot, and she's not out of the woods yet. But let's talk about the day she was emancipated, the day she got her freedom. So Pluto was on her south node and her Venus.
Oh, yeah.
So it was so fated, because whenever, you know, you have conjunctions with the nodes, that's fate. Yep. That's the hand of fate. Uranus was squaring.
And it's triggering. And it's also triggering that apex, because it was squaring. It was her Pluto square natal Pluto, right?
Yeah. So can you explain to the viewers what an apex is, Jasmina, and for me too?
So we have we have two squares and an opposition. So there's opposition between the nodes, and then two squares from the nodes to the Pluto. So the Pluto is releasing point.
See, Jasmina is the mathematician, the philosopher.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is why you need a Gemini and a Sag. You see, it balances.
Yeah.
So basically, we said the day she was free, Uranus was squaring her moon. Now, Uranus is the planet of fate. You never know what you're going to get with Uranus. You know, it's like that Forrest Gump movie, Life is Like a Box of Chocolates. That's Uranus, you know. So Uranus was squaring her moon, and that was, a square isn't always bad. That was the day she became free. And Neptune in Pisces was opposing her Mars in Virgo. Now remember, she was imprisoned in a lot of ways, but Neptune is the great dissolver. So Neptune dissolved her imprisonment, and she was free. So, you know, another person might have said, oh no, Neptune is opposing her Mars, but you never know how oppositions are going to play out. So it's so nice.
But she knows that energy. You know, those energy. Yeah, those energies are familiar for her. But she is Neptune square, Mars and Neptune. She knows that energy. That's who she is. So every time something happens in the skies, it can, you know, help her
I'm
actually.
going to briefly talk about her husband, Sam Azar. I can't think of his last name, but anyway, his name is Sam, and you know, he gets some, let's say, flack, we'll call it, in the media, and people, you know, question him. But I have to say, you know, there's loads of conspiracy theories about Sam and, you know, his interest in Britney and their marriage, but their synastry is really good, Jasmina. So,
I didn't see the synastry.
okay,
Is it
I
good?
only saw it today
Okay.
when I was doing my last minute homework. So,
Okay.
listen to this. And this is what I love to see between a husband and wife. He's a Pisces sun, first of all. So his sun is in her sixth house and his
Okay.
Saturn is here. So let's just remember that for a second. Okay, but he's got a moon in Sagittarius. So they have sun and moon synastry, and she's got her Juno in Sagittarius. So Brittany's husband, we know he's very Sag-like, and this man has a moon in Sag. So these two are very compatible. So sun moon synastry is just lovely to see in relationships. He gets her and she gets him. Now he's got his sun and his Saturn up here falling in her sixth house, but he's a personal trainer, okay? So like he is going to help Brittany get in shape, and sun, Saturn. And I think his sun Saturn opposition, I think this will help her, Mars, because Brittany, the 12th house, okay, Saturn rejoices in the 12th house. The 12th house, you need a routine. You need a routine for your mental to survive a planet in the 12th house. So this man coming into her life, okay, this Saturnian man, I genuinely believe he'll be good for her. And Pluto is moving out of her fourth house. It's done a lot of damage. It's destroyed her family. It's unrecognizable. She has cut ties with them. Pluto is now moving into her fifth house. You know, we won't talk about the retrograde just yet, but I feel that Brittany will get another chance.
It's been hard. Yeah.
Nina, I feel she will. And I know she lost her baby. I think it could have been last year. I do feel that Brittany will be a mom again. I really feel that in my bones. I hope I'm right, because I think with her North Node in Cancer, we didn't discuss her North Node in the 10th house yet. Like, she was always meant to be famous and reach the pinnacle of her career. But I think, you know, motherhood is going to transform her. And I think with the right partner, because this guy, well, the only thing I will say, Saturn, he's going through his Saturn return. So if he becomes a daddy, that would be very on brand for, you know, a Saturn and Pisces man to become a daddy for a Saturn return. And his Saturn is squaring her sun. So I do feel like, even though a square from, you know, a partner isn't easy, I do feel that she might need somebody to...
How is she now? How is she now with drinking and stuff now? Did she stop or no?
I don't know anything about that, and I hate to speculate, but I do know.
That's why I don't want to speculate. I'm just wondering. I think if she can, she can.
When I see these planets in her third house, gossip and speculation has been really destructive, Brittany, and I just
no, we don't want to do that. I was just wondering. If she were my client, I would kind of suggest to her, you know, like stay off any alcohol or drugs or anything.
Or pharmaceutical drugs. And
anything. Yes.
I was just going to talk about. I lost my train of thought there. But yeah, his Saturn squaring sun, and there's a transit coming up for Brittany at the moment, which is significant. Okay, so she's got her Chiron up in the 8th house in Taurus, and there's going to be a Sun-Uranus conjunction. It's this week, I feel, and that's going to be conjunct Brittany's Chiron, as far as I know.
Tomorrow.
So
it's tomorrow.
If this is conjunct Brittany's Chiron, it has been announced. Okay, Sun is shining a light. Uranus can be mental health. It can be fate as well. They've announced they're making a documentary about her conservatorship. And so this is going to definitely shine a light, an unwanted light, I would say, for Brittany on that painful period in her life. And it's going to activate that trine she has with Mars and Chiron. And it might be a little bit painful for her. The best way for Brittany to express or to get through this is through music. Venus trine Mars trine Chiron. for sure. But this could be a little bit painful, or this could trigger things for her.
Jupiter is going into Taurus as well on the 16th, and it's going to go. It's going to be oppose her natal Jupiter, so that might help her.
Jupiter, Scorpio, yeah.
Yeah. She has first degree of Scorpio, and when Jupiter comes into Taurus, it's going to oppose her natal Jupiter. It might help her. I'm just wondering what did Jupiter trigger now that it was 25th, when it was a 25 degree of Aries, it was oppose her Pluto, and it triggered the apex, that T square. That was just recently. So what happened recently?
And so
in the news?
Moving into her 6th house. I think this is good, Jess. My battery's low. I think this is good because you know, Saturn moving into her 6th house will definitely help her set a good routine around her mental health, working out, eating, diet, and Pluto moving into her 5th house. I think she is going to make music again and create again, but it might be a child, I think, and I hope, you know, that it's a happier period for her. When Pluto transits her moon, it might bring up some things again. But I do feel that her husband is very good for her, looking at their synastry. And I know that not everyone in the media or Twitter would agree with that, but I'm just going by their synastry. I think it's a very genuine connection. And that's it. That's all I have.
Yeah. I just hope that she has, you know, an ability to be her true self. I think all her life she wasn't able to be who she was in a sense. I think she was just like a program, you know, like she was like a programmed robot, you know, do this, do that, I'm going to control this. I hope she can get a control of her life.
There are conspiracy theories out there that she, you know, that the images we see of her on Instagram are programmed AI robots. So yeah, it's interesting you bring that up. But I agree, she has been controlled. She's had issues with control and, you know, and people abusing their power. And she's a Libra rising. So, you know, Libra risings are very people-pleasing, and it can take them a long time to learn boundaries. Because Libra.
Yeah, and Sag needs freedom. Sag needs freedom. Right? Freedom.
So this, you know, Britney, the remedy for Britney is definitely to work on this Mars. Have a good, and I feel that this man she's married will help her Mars. I really do. And I hope that she's, you know, if she can stay off all, as we said, pharmaceutical drugs, recreational drugs, alcohol. I do feel that she doesn't appear to me like she's on alcohol anyway in her videos. But, you know, if she is on medicine for her health, you know, who are we to judge? Because this girl is
different.
Trauma.
That's different. That's different.
But I think Britney, the way forward for Britney is a really good routine and a lot of therapy for trauma as well.
So the point is not to use it, but not abuse drugs. So it's different things, you know. When you use it, not abuse it. Do you maybe know? What happened?
In my phone, Jasmina, because I'm worried about it going to bed. If anyone has any questions, pop them in the box before we finish.
Yeah, I have a question for you. Oh. Do you know if anything happened to her in October 2014? Like I know you studied her. Do you know anything will happen in 2014? Maybe.
I'm really bad with dates, but I did look at different stuff. If I go, wonder if I just go like this when I can't. You know, if I have loads of, I've all her charts screenshotted on my phone, but maybe Georgiana might know. Hang on, there's a question. We can also say that if her progressed sun is in Capricorn now, that brings a layer of maturity, structure, right? Yes, good point. We didn't even look at her progressed sun because we were so busy looking at her transits. So if her progressed sun is in Capricorn, yes, it would bring a layer of structure and maturity and a Saturnian man into her life as well. Oh, thanks, Nora. But I also think, you know, Saturn, if your progressed sun is in Saturn, Saturn is a hard master. Saturn, like I said with Jeremy Renner's live, Saturn is the bone breaker of the zodiac. You know, you have to work hard when Saturn is on your sun or ruling your sun. And Britney is no stranger to hard work, but, you know, Saturn is a very serious, sobering sign. You can be prone to melancholy. Progressed Sun in Capricorn, I would say a little bit of melancholy, which is normal with Saturnian placements. That's a very good
So I
question.
don't know, I have progression that it's in Leo, it's in Virgo. I don't know. Maybe I have the wrong thing.
Maybe.
I just pulled
Maybe. So if her progressed Sun is in Virgo, then that's in the 12th house, isn't it?
It's just coming up. It's in the first degree, so it was just the date. Georgiana is October 2014, and why I'm wondering about October 2014 because the Pluto was on her midpoint between Sun and Moon, and that's I'm wondering did something happen then? I'm just.
It's interesting.
I was just curious.
I know her sister,
yeah.
you know, brought out a documentary, and she was very hurt about that. But that was not 2014. That was more recently. There's so much stuff that has gone on for Britney between documentaries and, you know, intrusions into her personal life. And like I said, this is a very private girl. She's a very private person. Look at all the planets, the stellium at the bottom of her chart. So there's a little orb there. So I think Georgiana is checking that date for us.
Yeah, I'm thinking in 2 years, her Mercury is her progressed Mercury is going to be in her Moon, so maybe something, and then in 7 years Venus. So maybe she won't become a mother. Maybe in 7 years.
7 years. Oh, I hope it's sooner than that for her.
I don't know. I'm just wondering.
I
when
think
progressed Venus goes
Mercury on her moon, Jasmina, I think that could be a return to performing and writing music.
That's in 2 years. Yeah, progressions. I think
the next music she makes will be the best music she's ever made, because it will be the music of a bird that has been caged for how many years? Her whole life, practically. You know, when we think
her whole life. That's what. Yeah, I think she wasn't able to be herself because Pluto was hitting everything in her chart in Sag, and then in her fourth house, and triggering all this stuff. I think her time is coming.
Yeah.
To show us who she really is, because she is a creative person who needs to express herself freely, you know, without any restrictions. That's how I feel.
But I always say, you know, people comment a lot about her Instagram and about her posts and about how she's dancing and how she's appearing, and that, you know, she looks unkempt, she looks, you know, she's dancing strangely, or her eyes look weird, or like Britney. When you cage a Sagittarius for that length of time, when they get out, they go like Sagittarius level 2000. So that's like what you're seeing on Instagram. That's like Sagittarius gone to the extreme is what we're seeing. You know, she's posted even some, you know, nude photos, which are well within her rights to do. You know, she just wants to be completely free now.
Yeah, I was wondering what in her chart is telling her, why does she want to be provocative? What in her chart makes her so provocative?
Uranus conjunct Lilith. 7 degrees. Yeah, I think that's what. Yeah.
I think that. Yeah, maybe that's the story.
You could look at all her songs and find the aspects for the songs. You know, it's crazy. And you know what's so interesting? Okay, her song "Born to Make You Happy." I mean, Born to Make You Happy, anthem for a people pleaser, Libra rising. You know, Libra rising, their biggest challenge, all Libra risings, is, you know, they avoid conflict and they keep the peace to the point.
Injustice. Injustice. I'm just thinking of injustice. All these people fighting for her, you know, for justice.
Yeah, and we never mentioned her part of fortune is in the 11th house. So, I mean, her fan base are incredibly strong, and they will give her luck and money, and her fan base are going to stay with her, you know, for life. The people you know, that love Britney will be devoted to her, and I feel that they will support her through thick and thin, because they know that this girl has been through a lot.
Do we know how her relationship with her kids is?
She's estranged from her children right now, as far as I know. She is estranged from them, yeah. And this is kind of why I was so sad about some of the aspects I saw. That they were seeing her, I think, once a week, and now they don't see her They don't, like, she still supports them financially. Okay, 16 years since the release of Baby One More Time. Interesting. Interesting.
Okay. There's nothing there. Okay, I was thinking what happened between
There's
the
nothing
midpoint.
there. 16 years though. That's interesting. That was such
Yeah,
a life-changing song.
that's also true. I'm looking at her directions, solar directions. Her Saturn moved from Scorpio to Sag in last year.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, you know, and then she finally became free.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's also interesting, because it was sextiling her ascendant and stuff.
Yeah. It's so interesting.
That's cool.
It's so interesting. I hope that everyone, you know, learns something from the live, because we didn't even go through every single aspect, Jasmina, because there's so much there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much. But I mean, we can see the her trine with Chiron and Venus and Mars, and we can see the Mars Neptune thing has been really, really problematic for her, and the Saturn Pluto on her Venus. Yeah. And look at there's that Ceres I see there, the asteroid.
Yeah, that's also for Karen. Yeah, it's also it's together with Pluto.
I feel like her parents, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that her parents, I would say dad was Saturnian, mom was Plutonic, and she was very devoted to them at one point in her life. I really feel that it has broken her heart that it has gone this way with her family. You know, I feel it's been really a cause for huge suffering in her life, this Venus in her 4th house. Because Britney, I think, really loves her family and wanted it to work. But remember, wherever you have Capricorn in your chart, it's hard work. Yeah. You got Capricorn on your 4th house, hard work. Family is hard work for her. Yeah.
I feel that she didn't have the support that she actually needed.
Motherhood was hard for her. She hadn't gone through her Saturn return. She was 24. When you think about it, Jasmina, you know, she was so young. And Saturn rules her 4th house. And she learned so many painful lessons, I imagine, when she became a mom. So you cannot look at her chart and not feel empathy for her.
I do truly feel, and I feel like she was trying to figure out who she is. She didn't have time to stop and to see, what do I want? Who am I? You know, what is my life? You know,
a big issue was not having good people around her. You know,
no support. Without a support, it's very hard without a support.
We never
right?
talked about her moon in Aquarius, but like moon in Aquarius tends to intellectualize their emotions, and you know, tries. You see, and this is the thing: emotions are messy. We can't intellectualize them. Emotions aren't logical. They don't make sense. And an Aquarius moon, you can be susceptible to erratic.
Yeah, in one hand, in one hand, I think it helped her in one hand to be detached from everything that was going on.
Definitely.
But on the other hand, if you don't actually get involved in your emotions, they come up. You know, they build up. You have to release it somehow, right?
Yeah.
That's why the mental health problems, because it has to go out somehow, right?
Mars was in Virgo too, and we know that Virgo, you know, can be a very harsh inner voice, very harsh critic, very hard on yourself.
Yeah.
And in the 12th house,
Mark doesn't like 12th house. Mark doesn't like Neptune, and Mark doesn't like Virgo. So it's a hard Mars for her to work with. Yeah. That energy, really hard.
But Britney, would you say she's an old soul? I reckon she is, with her Mars in the 12th house. Britney, and with this Venus conjunct her South Node, Britney, you know, has a lot of karmic debt. I feel.
We'll see what happens with her. I really wish her all the best. I think, and I feel that we didn't see the best of her, who she really is yet. I think she's going to show her true face.
I've seen her so much love. My heart cracked open for her when I looked at her chart, because I never looked at it deeply, because the first time I looked at her chart, you know, I just glanced at it and saw all these planets at the bottom and went, oh, that's all I felt like. Oh, she's quite private. But then when I started looking at her aspects and saw the transits, I just felt like you wish that if every celebrity had an astrologer in an ideal world, and they said, okay, look, Chiron is going to be on your moon, self-care, it's going to be a difficult time, childhood issues come up, you're going to have to deal with some dark emotions, some wounding, You're going to have to really like look after yourself while Chiron's on your moon. Like this girl didn't know what was happening, and Chiron was right on top of her moon the day she shaved off all of her hair. And it was such, it was like, it was a Sagittarius act too. It was like an act of defiance and freedom. And
Actually, yeah, she was making a statement without using her voice. She was making a statement without using her voice because she felt blocked, right, verbally to do so.
Look at Sinead O'Connor's chart. I just thought of it there. You know, the Irish artist.
Yeah, I know.
Now, not in such public circumstances, but she's very famous for her shaved head, and she is also, you know, it's documented. Her mental health issues have been well documented. You know, it's a long journey for people with planets in the 12th house. So if anybody's watching and you have a planet in the 12th house, you're not doomed. You just have to safeguard your mental health. And
yeah, just be aware. If you're aware, you can work with it, work for it, work on it, right?
Just know that it.
I actually heard. Did you hear that Britney is now into astrology as well? I
never heard.
I heard somewhere that she was posting this. She was posting this astrology book and telling her followers, "Oh, look, I'm reading this astrology for the soul."
She has always been really vocal about the fact she's a Sagittarius, and I think she really resonates with the Sagittarius sign. And of course, she would with that stellium in Sagittarius.
I feel that she's now starting to be more into astrology. Maybe that's a way for her to learn how to do stuff. And I hope that she's gonna get more into it. So the astrology can help you guys so much.
Yeah.
To deal with
every celebrity, especially someone as big as Britney Spears, needs an astrologer to tell them when to release an album. There are times when you lie low, and there are times when you're meant to go out. And you know, if Saturn or Pluto or Chiron are on your natal planets, you know, it's a time, or Mars, it can be a time to lie low. But yeah, I wish her well and so much happiness in the future. And we'll watch her journey, Jasmina, and we'll all be rooting for her.
Absolutely. Excellent. This was a great live.
It was.
It was
I'm so
very
sorry
important.
I had to do it on my page, but I needed her chart because I get, you see, I
forget the chart. I tested on stories, I tested on reels, I tested it, and I don't know what happened. I couldn't find a magnifying glass, whatever. I'll do
for it, but yeah, we'll have a tutorial again another time. So we'll say goodbye to everyone. Thanks everyone for joining us. We've still got 7 people with us. My God, you're so dedicated.
Yes.
Appreciate you all.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you everybody. This was very much fun. We'll do this next month with somebody else. So send us messages who you want to see next.
Yeah. We might come up with some good suggestions. Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mihaela. Bye.